most people, to the untrained eye, are going to sit here and say that this owner starved her dogs.
We're going to head up to that dog call right now. So we'll go out, we'll assess the situation.
I mean, look at it. These dogs look like garbage. I mean, that's just not... Did you see there's bags of food there?
She was very upset about losing all of her cats. She called me up a few times in tears.
I need my photos. I need to be able to paint this picture for the judge so that he sees what I see.
Getting where you need to go shouldn't be a struggle. That's why Hillsborough County offers Sunshine Line, a transportation service for residents who need a little extra help. If you have no mode of transportation, you may qualify for Sunshine Line's door-to-door service based on age, disability, or income. For those who live in the Hart service area, you may be eligible for an income-based bus pass program. Sunshine Line's trained drivers provide safe, shared rides, helping you to and from the vehicle and making sure you're secured every step of the way. Scheduling is simple. Just call 813-272-7272 to see if you qualify and start your application process today. Sunshine Line is here to keep you moving safely, affordably, and with a smile. Visit hcfl.gov/sunshineline to learn more and get started today. Sunshine Line, Hillsborough's ride on the bright side.
morning and welcome to the March 10th, 2026 regularly scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by Chaplain Commissioner Gwen Myers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, I come to you again, asking and thanking you that you've allowed us to gather again for our land use meeting. Bless our staff, this board, and all our applicants who have submitted an application that we can discuss and make decisions in your holy name, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Mr. Grady, want to review changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. In addition to the withdrawals, continuances, remands listed on page 3 and 4 of the published agenda, we do have two changes to the agenda. The first is on page 6, item B6. A revised report has been added to the corrected description from a warranty bond in the amount of $11,700 to a warranty check in the amount of $11,700. The other change is there's a Commissioner Miller item regarding a recommended board motion regarding directing staff to take steps need to initiate the process for creating a Lithia community plan. Those are the changes to the agenda.
I can motion to approve the changes.
So moved. Second.
Motion Commissioner Wellstell, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on changes to the agenda.
Motion carried 6-0.
Right. Can we have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Commissioner Wellstell, second Commissioner Myers on the consent agenda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, so anyone here for a B item? Your application's been approved. This time, if you are planning on testifying today, would you please stand and raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in?
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, now on the vacating part of the agenda, Mr. Grady, you want to introduce the first item?
Commissioners, the first item, agenda item C1, vacate petition 25-0024. Real Estate Services will present this item.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Victoria Rosenbecker with the Facilities Management and Real Estate Services Department. Item C1 today is vacate ID V25-0024. This is a Hillsborough County initiated vacate request by the Parks and Recreation Department to vacate a portion of public right-of-way known as Balm-Y-Mama Road. The right-of-way consists of approximately 1.582 acres and is generally located south of County Road 672 and west of Balm-Boyette Road in Balm. The subject portion of Balm-Y-Mama Road was realigned as part of the Balm Grove East development and is no longer used as public right-of-way. The Parks and Recreation Department has submitted this request in connection with a proposed master plan for the Balm Park and Recreation Center, which will provide expanded recreational amenities and public water and wastewater services. The vacate area, together with the existing 9.3 acre park site and a 5.6 acre park site acquired in connection with the Balm Grove East development, will allow for a roughly 16 acre park. Reviewing departments, agencies, and utility providers have raised no objections to this request. Thank you for your consideration, and I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak to the item? Seeing none, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion Commissioner Wilson, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on C1.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grady, introduce the first E item.
Commissioners, the next item is agenda item E1 is PRS application 26-0177. Commissioners, this is a request to modify a 4.4 acre parcel that's located with a planned development that's located west of Orient Road between Sly Avenue and East Hillsborough Avenue. The request is for this particular parcel to increase the building size for existing truck maintenance facility from 10,034 square feet to 13,100 square feet. Staff is recommending approval. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Applicant for E1. Morning, sir.
Mr. Chair, Brian Unk, 65 Court Street, McFarlane Ferguson, here on behalf of the applicant, U.S. Foods. We're here to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any proponent testimony? Anyone here in opposition? Seeing none, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on E1.
Motion carried 6-0.
E2.
Next agenda item is E2, PRS application 26-0182. The request is for a minor modification of a portion of a planned development located on the east side of US 301, east of Duncan Road. The request is to modify overall increasing entitlements from 77,800 square feet to 81,690 square feet. Increase storage units from 60 to 75 units, remove a car wash, and then allow for a modified mix of entitlements to allow for more non-retail commercial uses on the site. Staff is recommending approval, and we'll be up for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Ann Pollock with Trenum Law, 200 Central, St. Petersburg, representing the applicant. I just wanted to give a little information about the purpose of the request. This project was approved originally in 2005 to be a flex space condominium development, and 2 of the 4 buildings were constructed way back in the mid-2000s. Nothing has happened since, and the owner of these 2 properties is looking to finally get these developed. We'll probably be back for a little extra entitlements. We were hoping to at least be able to get one of the buildings started by going through the PRS process, but it should provide some additional space for businesses in the area to develop. Thank you. Here for questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on E2.
Motion carries 6-0.
E3.
Commissioners, next agenda item is E3, PRS application 26-0300. This is a request for a minor modification of a 3.56 acre parcel within a PD. It's located at on the corner, northeast corner of Providence Road and Providence Road Ridge Boulevard. The request is the parcel is currently developed with a community residential home. The applicant is requesting to increase the overall units within the PD by 6 units to be able to increase the bed count from 70 to 100. Staff is recommending approval and vote for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. For the record, my name is Patricia Ortiz. My address is 2810 North Central Avenue, Tampa, 33602. And the request is as stated. There is currently a Type C community residential home on site. It's allowed 70 beds. We're trying to increase that to 100 beds. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, not seeing any right now, but thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E3.
Motion carried 6-0.
E4.
Commissioners, the next item is agenda item E4, PRS application 26-0387. This is a request to modify a PD located at the northwest corner of Bloomingdale Avenue and Bell Shoals Boulevard. The request is to remove a requirement requiring issuance of a certificate of occupancy for 1 single-family residence prior to the development approval for additional mini warehouse entitlements within the PD. This requirement was imposed as part of meeting mixed-use requirements in the comprehensive plan to have 2 uses. There are other provisions within that policy that allows for compliance with the mixed-use criteria, one of those being having the second use within a quarter-mile connected to the site through a continuous sidewalk. This project is meeting that policy standard, so it's still meeting the requirements of the comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff has no objection to removal of this specific condition, and we are recommending approval.
Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Chris McNeil, McNeil Engineering, 15957 North Florida Avenue, Lutz, Florida, on behalf of the applicant. Good morning, everyone. Staff did a great job on the intro for that request. Just to give you a little bit of context here on the Elmo for the location, the 3 residential properties here on the north side relative to the storage. There they are highlighted for you. These are the uses that are in the proximity within that quarter-mile meeting policy 4.2.1, which states that they can be within the area of that quarter mile. So with that, we respectfully request your approval and are available for any questions.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on E4.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, Mr. Grady, introduce the first F item.
Commissioner, the next item is agenda item F1, rezoning PD 25-0809. This is a request for a rezoning of a 10.15 acre parcel located on the west side of Cluis Avenue, south of US 92. The parcel is currently zoned ASO4 and PD. The PD portion is developed with a mobile home park. This request is provide for 2 options to develop the site with a mix of 93 mobile home units and or park models. Park models are considered a type of RV, although they're different than your standard RV because they stay permanently on the site and do not move in and out like your other RVs you would expect. Nonetheless, it is subject to length of stay requirements that are in the Land Development Code, and the conditions are the recommended conditions include provisions to ensure compliance with those standards for that type of RV. Based on the surrounding development pattern, staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission also found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the hearing officer also recommended approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, the applicant here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commission. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. We're in the East Lake Orient Park area. Property appraiser has this 10.15 acres. As the staff has indicated, this would be a fixed unit park mobile park trailer site, which is basically a fixed non-movable RV short-term resort park as indicated in the code with 2 different options, 93 units or 80 units. Planning Commission is consistent, Development Services approval, and ZHM supports. So I'll keep this brief. Development Services note that the area consists of single-family neighborhood commercial. Comp plan is very uniform. This would be the 93-unit plan. They have a lot of mitigations respecting the 30-foot wetland buffer, providing a central green space and type A buffers. Be the same plan under the 80-unit, but the mobile homes on the south would remain. Planning Commission notes would complement the area. It would be an affordable housing option. DSD notes it's compatible and mitigates the site well with preservation of natural resources. There were 2 individuals who did speak at the hearing. We did notice 23. All the items that were raised had to do with a type of improvement at the park, which is what's involved with the PD, which includes a lot of improvements, as I've shown you, which staff responded to at the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, thank you. Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Please come forward. You have a total of 10 minutes.
Hi, Rebecca York, 5002 Cluis Avenue. My property abuts this property, and on some of their drawings, it shows a bunch of man-made ponds, which I'm not sure that I understand why, but nonetheless, they have the 25-foot easement. I assume that will border the property, so it'll be 25 feet away from my property line, but they show some of their proposed man-made ponds going all the way to my property line. So, vacation on that. And the park models that they speak of, park model is a brand name for a tiny house, which is a 400 square foot house. I don't know how you can build a community with 400 square feet to consist of families and what have you to make this a resort, and that you can only stay in for 120 days at a time. I don't know who governs that. I wish someone could answer that, because thus far I've not gotten an answer for that. And do they move from point A and in 120 days they go to point B and just keep going? Because in the area, yes, there are a lot of mobile home parks. Some should not be there at all, and this is one of them. But now we're going to turn it into a, pretty much, for a better case of the word, a RV park. And nothing in the area is going to be an RV park. And never, I don't think, would anybody have an RV park there. And I don't know how that consists of, you know, affordable housing for people, once again. And I don't know, is it going to be 80? Is it going to be 90? Nobody's answered that. Some of the stuff they're leaving there, which is already an eyesore, but we're going to leave it. I don't know how we're going to build around that. And once again, how it appears as though they are right on top of my property line, and I'm sure that the setback is a 25-foot, so even a man-made pond can't come up any closer than the 25 feet is what I'm hoping to achieve here.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Michael Blake. I live 5102 Cluis Avenue, Tampa, Florida, north of the property that Mr. Preston is presenting to you. My issue is that he has and own about 6 parks in the neighborhood. And all 6 parks, one of them River Breeze, the one he's butting up to make this other piece of property. He have 20 mobile homes in that. Only 6 of them have people in them. The rest of them, you cannot, they're unlivable. Down the street, he has 30 mobile homes just a block away. A total of 8 of those are occupied. The rest of them are unlivable. These are not, if he can upgrade what he already has, because if you put a finger on any of those mobile homes that he have now, they will all fall to the ground. So now we're going to trying to bring in what he called an upgraded RV park / units. Think about this, 120 days. He's going to allow someone to stay there, and then they got to move. That's not a permanent residence. And you cannot put a resort in the same sentence as affordable living. When you think about affordable living, you're just making it basic, and if they don't pay the rent, the government don't give him money within a month, he already has this problem. You have to kick him out. In all of his communities that is on Cluis Avenue, listen to me now, you cannot live in half of them. He owns a lot of properties down Highway 92, just a block away. And I got all Duncan, Hilltop, River Breeze, Oga to Oga, Cluis Park, the one on Baptist Road. He owned all of these parks, but half of them you can't even live in because they're unlivable. Why should we applaud him, give him something that all he's going to do is bring his mess over to the other area? We don't deserve this in our neighborhood. Half of them that he owns now is boarded up. The windows that no one can live in. You walk in, you fall through the floor. Time is up. But he want to make a community, want to put 90 homes in 10 acres. Sitting junk on top of a junk. Whenever you're talking about a tiny home, that's what RV park, whenever you look it up, it says tiny homes. 120 days, you gotta move. You wanna bring trashy trailers in. They're not new. Who's gonna monitor this? Who's gonna make sure that people only stay 120 days? Think about that, 120 days, you gotta leave. And if the government, the affordable housing, if you can't afford it, guess what? You gotta go. That's what he already has. If you go right down the street, that's what he got now. You can't live in them. Fix up what you already have. Don't try to bring additional mess in our neighborhood. We got enough junk down our street. His trailers now, yellow, green, blue, 1927 trailers. It's nothing new with the trailers that he got there now. They're 1945 trailers, boarded up, don't have AC. But he want to put this next to that. He's not going to improve it. He's just making it sound good. It sounds good, yes. But reality, he want people to come in and stay 30 days. I'm sorry, 120 days and then you're out. That's not permanent. This is not what we need in our neighborhood. His house now, the houses that he called an office, is full of old stoves, couches, boarded up, but it's his house, it's his check-in points. It doesn't make sense. If you go out there, you will see what I'm talking about. If you go to all of his communities within 2 miles, you will see exactly what think about your neighborhood. An old mobile home. You put a finger on it, it's about to fall down. They all boarded up. No one can live in it. But he wants to bring this to his other property. He want to rezone it. He already have mobile homes and houses on this product, on this property that he's talking about. Guess what? You can't live in it. It's unlivable. It's trash. Straight up trash. Need a bulldozer. So what I'm saying and asking you, please do not award him to bring other mess to what he already has. You don't bring mess to the mess. You try to clean it up. He's presenting this as an RV/mobile home park. Don't believe it. Please don't believe it. All he's going to do is that old houses and mobile homes that he already bought, all he's going to do is put it in these spaces. 90 in 10 acres. 90 in 10 acres. I'm going to leave this with you. 120 days, you're out. That's trash. If the government don't send him money, you're out. He already has that problem. But he want to bring it more. RV park, that's all it is. You're out. Please do not award him.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Please
your
do not
comments.
award him
Thank you,
this.
sir.
Thank you.
Applicant has an opportunity for a 5-minute rebuttal.
Oh, sir, your glasses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members, and for the comments from the audience. Those comments are the express reason why Homes of America is ownership of this park and about 60 others, because the park is in bad condition. They are expressly improving the park removing, and we'll be removing all the units, hooking up the water and sewer. The pond, per the site plan, is only on this property. So this is a site with many others under a very large company that's making an investment, and the issues on the site, which, by the way, there's no code enforcement citations of any kind on the site, will be for improvement to bring the site up to a higher standard. The water and sewer connection alone is very expensive. That's a project that will be occurring along with removing the units that have been in the process of being taken out and being closed up as we're moving through the rezoning. So the express reasons or purposes or concerns raised by 2 of the neighbors of 23 that we noticed are expressly for the purpose of improving this park and bringing it to a standard that the code recognizes for the type of use proposed. So with that, we appreciate your attention and consideration.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission.
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. Future Land Use Section Policy 3.1.3 requires that all new development be compatible with the surrounding area. The existing land uses on the site include single-family residential and mobile home park uses. There are additional mobile home park uses to the east of the site across Cluis Avenue, as well as single parcel designated as light commercial that is operating as a convenience store. To the north and south, there are single-family residential uses as well as vacant land. The Tampa Bypass Canal sits to the west of the site. As the majority of the surrounding existing developments are mostly characterized by single-family residential and mobile home parks, the use of the site as a fixed-unit mobile home park would complement the residential nature of the area and the surrounding uses near the site, which is consistent with policy direction that relates to compatibility and neighborhood protection. In the housing section of the comprehensive plan, Objective 1.1 supports a range of housing options to affordably meet the needs of current and future residents. Policy 1.1.8 encourages a variety of housing types, including single-family, multifamily, and missing middle housing, to diversify the housing stock and provide Hillsborough County residents with more housing options across a range of income levels. Policy 1.2.9 specifically states that manufactured housing and mobile homes shall be acknowledged as a viable means to provide affordable housing. The request is therefore consistent with this policy direction of the housing section of the comprehensive plan. The East Lake Orient Park Community Plan calls for the Tampa Bypass Canal to maintain public access to be able to be enjoyed by all. The proposed rezoning is consistent with this policy direction, as there is an access via the roadway and a multi-use trail to the Tampa Bypass Canal. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master found the rezoning request to plan development for the development of a park model and mobile home park to be consistent with the land development code and with the comprehensive plan, and the zoning hearing master recommended approval.
Okay, we'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had originally queued just to make a joke that surprisingly he received all yeses, which is a rare feat for him. But since we've received some passionate comments, I'll just, can you clarify, I don't know, I see the stormwater pond, that's what she was referring to on the northwest section of the property is what her concern is. It doesn't look like we forewent any setback requirements though, right? They have what they're required to do?
They have what, yes sir, they do have what they're required to do. Stormwater ponds are permitted to be in buffers. They're considered to be open space. They will need to be designed to not have a negative hydrological impact to adjacent properties.
Right, so it'll I'm not even going to say it again, but it'll be function to drain down towards the canal or wherever the natural flow is away from her property.
It will not increase any flow to her property. Yes.
Okay, and I remembered you covering this in our briefing, but the 120-day consecutive day rule, you explained that these are more of, even though it's an RV, these are more of like a fixed, they might roll in, but then what, they probably get elevated off their wheels?
Yes, they can be rolled in or yeah, they look more like mobile homes than RVs, but they are technically RVs, and that's why there's a 120-day residency limitation.
Okay. What I would say is that on many of the comments that were received, land use, this is a judicial proceeding, so we can't take into account all of the other issues that you brought up, but it sounds like we might have some serious code enforcement concerns that need to be looked at in that area. That would be the proper channel for you to address all of the mentioned comments about dilapidated buildings that might be structurally compromised and unsafe. So with that being said, I've pointed this out to the board. I'm not ashamed of it. I grew up exactly in the type of trailer parks that the gentleman was describing. My dad would flex sill in our portable AC units into windows. It was real shoddy work, but we were proud and we had a house. And this unfortunately is the type of means that some folks have to go and live in to provide shelter. So bearing the fact that they did receive all marks of approval, while I would encourage that if there's any other units in the area that need to be reported to code, I know our code enforcement officers do an excellent job, and that should be handled through that channel, and I'd be happy to follow up with you to make sure that people are not forced into unsafe conditions. But with that being said, for this application, it does have all marks of approval, and this is a type of unit that some people do need and can only afford to live in, so I'll move for approval.
Second. Got a motion to approve, Commissioner Wolsel, second Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I appreciate all the comments today. However, the applicant stated that they will be removing all of the old units, and also that it was expressly for improvements, and for those reasons that I will be supporting it. Otherwise, I would not, but for those reasons, I will support it.
Right, Commissioner Cohen.
No, I just wanted to reiterate what Commissioner Westall said, because it's very important when we have the three legs of approval of our staff and the Planning Commission and the hearing master, and we recognize that we're in a zoning hearing. We're not in a hearing to deal with the conditions on the property, but code enforcement, I'm sure, watches these meetings, and the public comment today was clearly the equivalent of a report of a code enforcement violation, and I would expect that they would act accordingly. So I'm also going to be supporting the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo all the comments that have been made. I'm going to contact Joe Gross to follow up on this particular item that is located in District 3. Thank you so much.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Wolstel, second Commissioner Myers. And again, I don't want to repeat what Commissioner Wolstel or Cohen stated, but we appreciate the passionate pleas and concerns, but unfortunately, they're not a basis for denial. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, next item.
Commissioner, the next item is agenda item F2, major minor application 25-0810. This is a request for a major modification to the PD located south of State Road 60 between Dover and Turkey Creek Road. The main the focus of this modification is amending Pocket E, which is located on the southwest of the CSX rail line that runs through the property. They're requesting to add the option for up to 1,200 residential units in that facility. They're also making various amendments to the site plan and conditions regarding buffering, screening, and access related to that amendment. They're also adding the ability within Pocket A, in the northern portion of the PD, to add hotel uses, which is along State Road 60. As part of this request, and as implemented through condition 38 of the recommended zoning conditions approval, the comprehensive plan requires that at such time as the EIP zoning is modified to include residential uses, it shall include conditions regarding appropriate environmental testing for the areas proposed for residential uses, considering the former use of much of all or all of the EIP land as a former phosphate mine. as part of that at or before the time of preliminary plat, the project will require to establish a numerical baseline for naturally occurring backgrounds of levels of gamma emissions in non-mine impacted locations, and working with Florida Department of Health to establish a threshold level for gamma emissions. They should then are required to conduct a gamma survey for the area proposed for residential uses and establish for any areas where the survey levels exceed the threshold levels that were established. The developer is required to complete site-specific mitigation measures and conduct an additional gamma survey demonstrating that the gamma emissions do not exceed the threshold levels. In addition, there will be required to install radon mitigation vapor barriers under every structure slab and confirm radon levels are below EPA established thresholds prior to issuance of any certificate of occupancy. Additionally, no change in existing land usage is permitted within the area south of the CXS railroad track until the EPA and the county establish and implement an ongoing testing program to delineate the extent of the 1,4-dioxin contamination associated with existing Superfund site. Approval for residential shall be contingent upon demonstrated stability of the 1,4-dioxin contamination. EPA and the county have established a testing program and delineated the extent of the 1,4-dioxin related to the Sydney Mine Sludge Pond Superfund site. Testing must demonstrate stability of the 1,4-dioxin plume based on groundwater trend results from 4 consecutive sampling events covering more than 1 cycle of seasonal aquifer changes, and no subdivisions construction plan permits for residential development shall be issued until demonstrated stability. Based on those provisions in Condition 8 and evaluation of the surrounding development pattern with respect to compatibility, staff did find this request approval. The Planning Commission also found it consistent in hearing also recommended approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. Jake Kramer with Barbas Kramer. Commissioners, we'll run through an abbreviated version of our presentation. It is a rather complicated project. If you remember, about roughly a year ago, you all approved us in concept at a policy level. You approved our comprehensive plan amendment allowing the potential for consideration of residential on this land. And so the purpose of this application is to do 2 things. The first is essentially a modernization of this land use category in Energy Innovation Park because this is the largest undeveloped developable property within the urban service boundary. So we modernize that category and this implements that. And again, the second thing it does is allow the option of residential for a portion of the property. So just to reorient you, I know most of you are familiar with this property, but there's 2 landowners. I represent University Energy Park. On the west side of the property, it's EIP overall is roughly 3,000 acres. And again, this shows that this is a very unique land use category. This mix of uses, including energy generation, is only allowed on this site in Hillsborough County right now. And again, as you know, we talked about this about a year ago. This property is such a good potential for residential because it's smack dab in the middle of this identified growth corridor. So again, we're within the urban service boundary, and we're almost adjacent to Plant City's future growth plans, as you can see. So this is sort of the bridge between the urbanized land in the county and the future land to be urbanized by Plant City as it grows. So this is just a short summary to remind you of what we did a year ago. We modernized EIP. We cut down on the regulations because the property has sat vacant for many, many years in order to try to get that economic growth and get a true mixed-use community over time in this area. So we have industrial, commercial, and hopefully today residential as well. And this just, again, helps show in the big picture where this property fits in, again, as this is really the largest developable property in the urban service area today. And from this perspective, it also acts as a bridge between the lands you're considering adding and urbanizing over time in the I-4 corridor, as you can see, and it sort of acts as that bridge going down towards South County. So with that, I'm going to have our land use planner, David Smith, walk you through some of the details of what this proposed community is going to look like.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Smith, the Director of Development and Zoning for Stearns Weaver Miller. Keeping with the theme of keeping this shorter than normal presentation, but trying to hit the points. Currently, this is an approved PD that includes the two property owners that have been identified. The focus of this is the amendment is really pocket E. The proposed plan does update all the zoning conditions related to the comprehensive plan changes that were made relative to the use mix, and then allows for an option for residential up to 1,200 units. The only thing that's occurring in Pocket B is that we've just made it clear where the uses are to be identified and separating them out in pockets of entitlements with Pocket A, adding hotel motel uses, which were only excluded because of the DRI thresholds that existed when it was originally approved. Again, we're talking about Pocket E. The Pocket E residential option plan provides for access to Dover Road through 3 access points to be accommodated with roundabouts, and also provides for future connections to the south as staff anticipates over time, there may be additional growth and changes in this area. And then there is one emergency access at the very eastern corner of the property roughly at Henson Road. So Pocket E, maximum of 1,200 residential units with or it could have the renewable energy uses. We're keeping the renewable energy options, but only for those things like solar and wind power so that the HOA-owned properties or the community centers could have solar power and wind elements, keeping with the theme of the overall development. Maximum density, 3 dwelling units per acre. That provides for a transition between the lesser density properties to the south, the higher density properties to the west, and provides a very good transition. We have an enhanced buffer along what is in Pocket I. This Pocket I is right now is the buffer is 200 feet. We're incorporating that into the Pocket E option and providing a new set of buffers in keeping with FDP's determination that the berms need to be addressed. So southern and western berms will be removed to accommodate planned roundabouts, project access, and trails. We'll have a new 6-foot berm that will be constructed along the southern property line within a 100-foot buffer, and it will include landscaping, solar and wind elements, trails, amenities, and stormwater areas. The southern boundary is our largest boundary abutting adjacent residential development. We'll also have access to provided South Dover Road via the roundabouts, and there will be an 8-acre community gathering space. Pocket I, the modification that I talked about, currently it's a 200-foot buffer, and it goes all along Dover Road, all along the southern property boundary, and actually goes below the Turkey Creek portion of the property as well. This pocket is going to be revised in the residential option to be included in the buffers that I talked about previously. So Pocket J, the only other change here is it was kind of an orphan property that just happened to be in the ownership. That is being designated open space because it really doesn't provide a buffer to anything, so it's going to be an open space property. Comprehensive plan consistency, obviously we're doing this really in reaction to the comprehensive plan change, and Planning Commission has found it's consistent. From a compatibility standpoint, residential against residential is traditionally recognized as compatible development. There's no real buffer requirement between residential uses that are single family in nature. However, we're providing enhanced buffers. We'll have a 100-foot buffer along the southern property line, and we'll have a 50-foot buffer along Dover Road. With that, I'll turn it over to Jane Kramer unless you have any questions. No, excuse me, Michael Yates.
Good morning, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic, and I have been sworn. I'll go through the transportation really briefly. We have worked with staff so that the Turkey Creek Preserve and the University Energy Park will not increase any traffic for any of the non-residential components. So all that will remain as it was originally approved. The only increase in traffic would be if parcel E is developed, and that has been fully evaluated from the transportation perspective. And then I wanted to show, this is the roundabouts David Smith had referred to. As for the project access, when we did the neighborhood meetings on the project, one of the comments we got from the residents to the west of Dover was that they did not want the project accesses to align with their existing driveways. So we have moved the roundabouts to be offset from their existing driveways and meet the access connection spacing standards along Dover Road. And then the last part is that there is a CIP project at the intersection of Dover and Durant, and we are working with the county on a Mufasa agreement that Jake Kramer will describe in a little more detail.
You've got 1 minute left.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioners, if we could cut to the overhead. We've heard a couple of concerns since ZHM, so we wanted to just go ahead and address those up front. And the purpose of these two additional conditions that we're prepared to propose, and this is in addition to the roughly 19 pages of conditions we have here. One of them is a commitment to a Mufasa, which will make sure that our mobility fee dollars get reinvested back into this community. And the second one is we heard a concern about the railroad tracks, and so we're committing to a fencing condition as the residential gets built to make sure that there's an additional level of safety there. So with that, we're here for any questions. There are roughly 4 pages of environmental conditions, and our entire team is here if you have any questions on those. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone here in support? Okay, those in opposition? You have a total of 10 minutes. Please come forward. Morning.
Danielle Kimbrell, 1215 West Risk Street, Plant City. At the master hearing meeting that I had stood up at, I stood because they had spoken, Jake Kramer had spoken about how Plant City is growing, and that is an absolute fact. That same morning, I had just been to a county city meeting that rolled out the community survey that was given out in October, and these were the results that I spoke about. And this development the community does not want. We are already going at an incredibly fast rate that we can't keep up with. We understand that a lot of money is going to other areas of the county. And our roads, the county are taking care of the roads in Plant City, the city of Plant City, because we are growing so fast. Our roads can't handle this many cars, not just on Dover Road, but in the entire area. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. Good morning.
Good morning, Yvette Neiman, Dover. The applicant wants to build residential and mixed use of 475 acres on the southwest corner of the EIP. All of the land they're proposing to build on is part of the 90% of the EIP that's never been tested for anything. Keep that in mind. We're not talking about the restricted Superfund site. That's not part of this. We're dealing with the unknown because no one knows how much contamination and radon is in the other 90% of the 3,000 acres that they're desperately hoping to build on. And in the residential portion, they want to build mixed use. They've included daycare centers in their proposal. That's pretty insane. They've admitted that their radon testing has revealed problems, and yet they want to put children in daycare centers on this property. Also, they're claiming that the berms are unsafe, yet we see every day that they're riding heavy construction on the very berms they say must come down because they're unstable. All of this makes no sense, and there's no logic being applied. This commission needs to apply some logic, some common sense, and some care before it's too late and the majority of Hillsborough residents have to suffer. Thank you.
Next speaker.
I'm Debbie Holliday. I live in Dover. The public has had many safety concerns about the development of this 3,000-acre property. Existing private wells, the air around us, and the Florida and aquifer are at risk. Testing through 6 different agencies is supposed to be done for our protection. The applicant stated under oath that the results from the cleanup process would be released to us. Now he says he will not release the results until a building permit is requested. We have a 35-year tenured expert who has experience with sites just like these to review these reports for us. We demand we be given all the results as soon as they get them. When planning presented their evaluations of this development, they changed the capacity numbers for school districts. They would pick ones that were farther away to get approved. Traffic reports anywhere from 5 to 15 years ago were used to get approval. We have been told that instead of using contaminated water, they would use county water. Our water supply is exhausted now. They are also requesting the right to build hotels and motels. This is not compatible with our area. Homes are long-term residential stays, while hotels and motels are short-term. A long list of consistencies with the comp plan were identified by the public, but there was no response from the county. Why not? Traffic is severely congested now. Adding 1,200 homes on this site, plus the 92 other approved homes in the commercial development, cause safety issues for our residents. Around this property, on 3 sides, are 2-lane roads. How will first responders get through? This is also 3,000 acres of habitat for gopher tortoises, sandhill cranes, bobcats, and deer who live here. Their homes will be gone. Removal of the berms will cause more runoff water to adjacent homes who have private wells. Radioactive contaminants and radon gas from the berms will also be inhaled by residents in the surrounding area if a leak occurs. How will the public know if this happens? What is being done to protect existing residents? There are still tailings in the ground from the phosphate mine. The forever chemical 1,4-dioxane spreads when disturbed. The plume has already expanded twice. I read commissioners have the right to deny development based upon safety concerns if it constitutes a peril to public health, safety, or welfare. You have the right to reject projects that violate environmental, water quality, or safety standards. Development of this site has the potential to contaminate our water, threaten our human health, and the environment. Raise your hands if you would like any of your family to be living on this site or be in this area while they're developing this site.
Mr. Chair, we do have a Penny Martin online in opposition.
Okay, well, if we have enough time remaining after those that are here, we'll get to her.
Yes, sir.
Please continue. You've got 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. George Neiman. I live in Dover, next to Ground Zero. I urge you to deny this major modification. The process of approving a zoning application before we know whether developing residential and commercial will put people's health at risk defies common sense and logic. The entire 3,000 acres has potential problems of chemical and radiologic contamination in the soil. 90% of the EIP has never officially been tested. Everyone knows this, including the applicant, who started testing and told us that their tests have gotten problem readings. And we're not talking about Superfund site. We have to keep saying that because that's a topic that keeps coming up, and it's a distraction. The applicant won't release any of their test results data, and they're waiting until they're ready to break ground for us to see what the tests are showing. The extensive development and the shifting of earth that will occur if this development is approved will spread the contaminants downward to the Florida's water supply and outward toward the existing adjacent residents. Area constituents are already living on contaminated soil like we are. We don't want any more of it. We want to see the test results now, not at the end of the process as they're breaking ground. It will be too late to exercise any caution. I'm asking you to please deny this major modification. And I would say to all the voters out there, watch this board. Take a look at how they vote today, because you see what this board does is vote most of the time to appease applicants that are investors making money. But when the community is totally opposed to it, as this community is, where we've handed in hundreds, almost 1,000 petitions, when our community is against it, listen to them and vote for the community. And to the voters, if they vote yes, you know what you have to do the next election, because they're well funded by the development interest. The development lobby supports all of them in their campaigns. Take a look at what they receive from all businesses connected to land development. Thank you.
I think anyone else that's present? Okay. The individual that's online, you have a minute, 27 seconds.
Go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Penny Martin, Ground Zero. I'm asking you to vote no today. I'm aware that environmental evaluation is going to take place in step 5, but this does not make it okay to put the children and families on top of this site. Testing must be transparent. We are aware that there are already problem areas being identified. I want to explain the scope of the request in a little more detail. Remember, this is located on a man-made radon corridor. The Florida Health Radon website shows that 41% of the homes that are actually tested in this zip code have unacceptable radon levels. In addition, the land is comprised of primarily wetland. A natural waterway called Turkey Creek runs right through here to the river and ocean. As you know, the phosphate mining has occurred for decades, and the sludge ponds where the proposed homes are going were unlined during mining and are contaminated, as shared by the EPC. The railroad track runs right through there, transporting mining material daily. This is not a flat piece of land that just needs to be graded or concrete poured for homes. There are deep pits and unlevel ground, dips and valleys. It's a major undertaking. You get heavy equipment in there to move dirt and reshape the land without proper testing of all 3,000 acres. It all gets untouched. Extensive testing over the entire acreage must be completed. Also be aware that the tailing sands and clay waste from the gypsum stacks that was dispersed all over this property. That's how those 30-foot berms came to fruition.
Thank you,
the
ma'am.
Contaminated soil was just
Appreciate your
mixed in.
comments. Thank you. This time applicant has an opportunity for 5-minute rebuttal.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, this is the clerk's office. I need confirmation from the county attorney. We received additional evidence. Is that okay?
Unless the material was distributed in the zoning hearing master record, it's not able to be distributed.
Okay, then I'm going to need confirmation from the opposition on that.
Okay, if you're referring to the conditions that were distributed by the applicant?
Not the conditions. I was given packets by the opposition.
Okay, well, that material cannot be distributed because it is not part of the zoning hearing master record. And I haven't had a chance to review it to make sure that it is, so I'd recommend that it not be distributed.
All right, thank you.
Applicant.
Could we go back to my presentation, please? Thank you, Commissioners. Jake Kramer again. I just wanted to touch on the points that several folks in the opposition have raised. The first is that this property is not going to remain undeveloped forever. As you all know, there are over 7 million square feet of industrial entitlements alone on this property as a whole. That doesn't even count the commercial, that doesn't count all of the accessory uses, that doesn't count the solar towers that could be built several hundred feet in the air directly adjacent to these communities. It is our view that residential is much, much more compatible next to a neighborhood than these uses. I don't know exactly what the thinking was on how we got here and why those uses are approved adjacent to residential, but they are. And we think residential is a better fit. So with that context, we're also in a situation where I understand there's concerns about growth, but again, our comprehensive plan directs growth into the urban service boundary, and this is the largest opportunity in the entire county to bring growth into the urban service boundary. There was several comments about there are lots of unknowns on this property, and Commissioners, that's the entire reason we spent a year working with your staff to develop these extensive conditions. I can tell you I have never worked on a project in my career where we had 19 pages of conditions and 4 of those lay out in great, great detail all of the testing protocol for how we can proceed. And in many cases, the answer could be no, but we have to go through that process. And so that's why we've set up this entire environmental testing protocol with our experts and with your staff. We had over a dozen meetings with your staff to be able to get to this point with what those conditions look like. And they follow what you all directed us a year ago in the comprehensive plan. So we're establishing the testing. We have what we call the 3-legged stool, where we have to actually go out and test. Then we have to determine what mitigation is needed. Then we're adding physical protections in the form of vapor barriers to every home and every residential structure. Then we have a post-construction phase where we do further testing on top of all of that. And Commissioners, I would suggest to you that we don't have everyone in the community on board, but if you recall, we had a room full of people here for the comprehensive plan phase. We had very robust community engagement, as you all directed us to after that. And we resolved a lot of concerns because people realized the vast scale of the entitlements that are already on this property. And look, it feels like this has been a long time that we've been in this process for more than 2 years now. But this is only the beginning of all of the engagement that we have to do. So every environmental agency within the alphabet soup is going to be involved, and every one of them in their permitting process has an opportunity for public engagement as those test results get submitted to the agencies for the public to go and comment on those. So again, every step you see here along the way, there's going to be further opportunities for engagement and public comment. So with that, I'll close, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
All right, thank you, sir. Planning Commission.
Thank you. The subject property is located within the Energy Innovation Park Future Land Use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is not located within the limits of a community plan. Consistent with Future Land Use Section Policy 4.16.5, Number 6, the Energy Innovation Park property south of the existing railroad tracks and development Pocket E is limited to single-family residential at a density not exceeding 1,200 units and may include agricultural uses as well as solar support uses and facilities. This community is planned to provide a transition in density from the surrounding residential 1 future land use category areas located to the east and south of the subject site to the more intensive uses north of the railroad tracks and the denser future land use categories of residential 4 and residential 6 located to the west. The main access to the residential component of the site would be located on South Dover Road, which interfaces with lands located within the urban service area with the future land use designations of residential 4 and residential 6, which is consistent with policy direction regarding transition of uses and neighborhood compatibility. Modifications to berms are proposed to support potential residential development in Pocket E. A 6-foot berm will be constructed along the southern property line with a 100-foot buffer and will include landscaping, solar and wind elements, multi-purpose trails, recreation amenities, and stormwater management facilities. Existing berms along South Dover Road will be removed to accommodate planned roundabouts, project access, and trails, and consistent with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection directives. Access for the residential portion, the residential option in parcel E is specified, providing direct connections to South Dover Road via roundabouts in accordance with policy 4.16.5, number 2. One of the proposed conditions of approval addresses environmental considerations and permitting requirements for Pocket E residential uses. At the time zoning is modified to include residential uses, conditions will require appropriate environmental testing for areas proposed for residential development, taking into account the site's former use as a phosphate mine. The developer must coordinate with environmental oversight agencies and, if required, conduct pre-construction radiation sampling to determine if mitigation systems or specialized construction techniques are necessary. Any required systems or techniques must be installed prior to issuance of residential certificates of occupancy. At the public hearing for Hillsborough County Plan Amendment 24-06, which was a text amendment to the Energy Innovation Park policies of the future land use section, the Board of County Commissioners added policies 4.16.2 number 5 and 4.16.3 number 5 to ensure that any future residential development option within this designation adequately addresses potential environmental hazards associated with the overall site's history as a former phosphate mine and Superfund area. These policies require comprehensive environmental testing, coordination with federal, state, regional, and local agencies, and compliance with all applicable restrictions before residential development may proceed. In support of these requirements, the Development Services Department drafted detailed conditions of approval to further address and mitigate these environmental concerns. Based upon these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed major modification to Plan Development 10692, which is currently approved for the primary use of a resource recovery facility. The zoning hearing master found that this proposed modification is compatible with the surrounding development pattern and consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development code. And the zoning hearing master recommended approval, subject to the conditions provided by Development Services.
Okay, we'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to relitigate everything that we did through the comp plan amendment for this. It was a lot. So I'll just cover a couple of the highlights that I don't think were articulated well enough. And one of the applicants, one of the opposition said that something needs to be done before the dirt is disturbed. But the reality is that in the most major part of this land, this was approved in 2010, long before this board. And those entitlements, they can go in there right now up to 7 million square feet of heavy industrial and commercial, and they can apply for permits without these additional requirements that we added to the housing portion. Is that correct, Mr. Gormley?
That's correct.
And Mr. Kramer, I'm just going to ask you one quick question. We went through this for a long time, and when this was brought up, so the public can hear it on the public record, essentially, I leveraged your ask to put in these extensive environmental protections. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We added conditions that we would not have otherwise needed to comply with.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just for the people to be more informed, that was my only question. Mr. Gormley, do you know of any other piece of land in Hillsborough County outside of a Superfund site that has this rigorous of environmental protections placed on it?
No, sir.
And I that's the extreme benefit that I think that even people in the audience, that's why no one is here. We had opposition on the first hearings turn on themselves when they were informed of those heavy industrial entitlements that are pre-existing and could happen today no matter what. Their own neighbors started turning in support of this application, if you recall, when it happened. I think one of them was a former Marine that lives right out there. Another one is my own friend who is a former Air Force officer and a former chair of the REC, came in here to berate me, and then afterwards he said, "Oh, I just didn't understand all of that. Thank you for doing it." And I'm like, well, ask me before next time, please. And I just, land use is very complicated. These protections are way more extensive than we could ever get if they choose to not enact the 1,200 single-family homes on this property. So I just, and for everyone that's curious, there's over 1,000 Superfund sites in the continental U.S. Several of them are here, 4 in Hillsborough County that are already redeveloped. It's the gold standard for the EPA. You can go to epa.gov/superfund-redevelopment. You can look all of them up. They put playgrounds on some of these things. They put a myriad of uses on these Superfund sites. And the EPA considers that a good standard because that extensive cleanup would not happen if somebody didn't come in and pay for it to be cleaned up to that extent. So for all of those very good reasons, this protects the community just like the opposition said that they wanted. If we do not approve this, then we are exposing the community to potential harm. And since Commissioner Bowles is not here for his piece of the EPA protections, I do want to reaffirm that his 1.4 testing to make sure the plume doesn't expand, it's all still included in there, right?
Yes, sir. It's included part of the conditions.
So I see other people, so I won't make a motion yet to hear what they have to say, but there's zero reason to oppose this. They already have extensive entitlements that they can disturb all of these plumes and everything that you're articulating that you're worried about. It's going to happen with protections or without protections. I'll yield, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, so I know there was some talk of existing mitigation, but mitigation designed for undisturbed land is not the same as mitigation for active construction. When excavation, grading, and utility trenching begins across many acres, it can re-expose buried radioactive materials and toxic chemicals to the surface. Rupture groundwater containment systems built over decades of remediation and release radioactive airborne particulates into surrounding communities and undo years of remediation in a matter of days with really no way to reverse it. So also I believe that not only the future residents would be at risk, but also the existing communities are at risk as well. And so, and it's really concerning to me that one of the opponents had mentioned that they will not release the results of at this time, and that was very concerning to me. And so, for those reasons and others, I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Walsh, I appreciate your comments. I do remember the rounds of talking about this, so I'm going to go ahead and move for approval.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Commissioner Myers, do you have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Wolstel. Commissioner Wolstel.
Thank you. Just because those comments were said, which are untrue, because I'm going to just read this. This was exactly the language that I worked extensively to make sure we're put in here, which are in this on page 113 out of 1,718. That at the time that the zoning is modified to include residential uses, it shall include conditions regarding appropriate environmental testing for the areas proposed for residential uses, considering the former use of much or all of the EIP land as a former phosphate mine. These conditions shall require the developer to coordinate with the appropriate environmental oversight agencies, and that prior to residential development, the developer will, if required by best industry practices and appropriate agency guidance, conduct a pre-construction radiation sampling to determine if mitigation systems or specialized construction techniques are needed, and if needed, such systems and/or techniques will be installed prior to issuance of any residential certificates of occupancy, and other appropriate environmental assessments, which, depending on the results, may require the developer to employ appropriate remediation techniques, engineering controls, and/or institutional controls, and all of these must comply with all 5 environmental agencies that were listed on this application. There is no disturbing of dirt all over that's going to compromise the remediation techniques. The Superfund site is still required to go through a 5-year review of the 1,4-dioxane controls that are in place right now, et cetera, et cetera. All of these controls are put in place before they can do anything. Is that correct, Mr. Gormley?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And just for clarity, we have memorialized that in the PD conditions, specifically the radon condition is 38.2.
Thank you. Apologize, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clearly articulate that for the public after the previous comments. Thank you.
No, I think that was certainly necessary. Commissioner Miller, then we'll vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not repeat what Commissioner Whistle just addressed, but I will just restate one of his earlier comments, that this land is already entitled. They can already disturb the land. The fact that they're going to be putting residential on there allows for all of these conditions that the client has extensively provided for us today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve by Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Wolstall, and I'll just say that I was proud to support this project in 2010 and believe with the additional safeguards and protections, many of which that Commissioner Wolstall stated, the concerns are unfounded, so I'm proud to once again support this project. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 5-1. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda voted no.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Commissioner, the next item is agenda item F3, Major Mod Application 25-0849. The Commissioners, this is a request for a major modification of the PD that's located on the east side of Duncan Road, south of Bloomingdale, and north of US 301. The request is to provide for a second development option to allow for a 60-unit mobile home park. Currently, it's approved for a mix of commercial, office, and daycare uses and residential. Staff is recommending approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, is the applicant here? Is the applicant for F3 here?
Good morning again, Mr. Chair. Brian Unk, 625 Court Street, McFarlane, Ferguson, McMullen here on behalf of the applicant, Misty Moon Properties, LLC. This is an application to modify an existing PD to add a second development option. It is recommended for approval by the zoning hearing master, by the Planning Commission. Has found it consistent, and we do not have any public opposition. I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, Planning Commission.
Thank you. The subject property is located within the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan as well as the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Per Objective 2.2, future land use categories outline the maximum level of intensity or density and range of permitted land uses allowed in each category. The Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, commercial, office uses, research corporate park uses, light industrial, and clustered residential and mixed-use projects. The request to allow a 60-unit mobile home park is consistent with this policy direction. The proposal meets the intent of Objective 4.4 of the Future Land Use section that requires that new development be compatible to the surrounding neighborhood. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is comprised mostly of mixed uses with residential and commercial uses in the immediate area. Policy 4.4.1 states that any density or intensity increases shall be compatible with existing, proposed, or planned surrounding development. The development and redevelopment shall be integrated with adjacent land uses through the creation of like uses, mitigation of adverse impacts, transportation and pedestrian connections, as well as the gradual transition of intensity. The proposed residential development would complement the surrounding area and meet the intent of that policy direction. Goal 2 of the Riverview Community Plan reflects the vision of Riverview using the Riverview District Concept Map. The subject site is located in the Highway 301 Corridor District, which is noted under the plan to provide a safe, attractive, and efficient corridor system that contributes to the character and economic well-being of the community and provides for a sense of arrival. The request meets the intent of this policy direction as outlined in the Livable Communities element of the comprehensive plan. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Hearing master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the proposed major modification to Plan Development 06491 and found the request to be compatible with the surrounding development pattern as well as consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development code, and recommended approval.
All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion from everybody. Second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item F4, major mod application 25-1247. This is a request for a modification to a PD located at the northeast corner of Patterson Road and Bloomingdale Avenue. The request is to modify the PD to transfer units from, this is a PD approved for various residentials, including a community residential home, and they're transferring residential units to increase community residential beds from 101 to 121, and then also adding additional uses, including a restaurant and personal services to the community center that supports the community residential home. Staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval.
Was the applicant here?
Good morning, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson. This is actually an existing ALF out in Brandon. This is the photo of the existing facility, and this is the clubhouse where we're adding the uses. So we're not proposing any external new construction. These are going to be internal within the community residential home. We just have some undeveloped property owned by someone else in the PD, and this joint application transfers the density between the two. We did have one letter of objection in the record, but it was relating to flooding north of the site and relating to construction, new construction causing flooding. But again, there's no new external construction going on here, and we're here to answer any questions should you have any.
All right, thank you. Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located within the residential 12 and residential 6 future land use categories. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. Overall, the surrounding development pattern of the site reflects predominantly residential uses, including the use of the site itself. Although light commercial uses are located to the south, they are largely separated by West Bloomingdale Avenue. Additionally, the subject site has already long functioned as an institutional residential use, and the proposed modification would not have any significant impact on surrounding areas. Future Land Use Section Objective 4.6 states that certain non-residential land uses, including but not limited to residential support uses and public facilities, shall be allowed within residential neighborhoods to directly serve the population. These uses shall be located and designed in a manner to be compatible with the surrounding residential development pattern. Policy 4.6.1 identifies the residential support uses such as child care centers, adult care centers, and churches as allowable land uses in any of the residential, commercial, and industrial future land use categories. The policy requires that these facilities be appropriately designed in terms of scale, intensity, and function to serve the surrounding neighborhood or the non-residential development in which it occurs, while maintaining compatibility with the surrounding land uses and zoning. The proposed change of the site meets the intent of this policy direction by allowing the modification of an assisted living facility which functions as a residential support use. The request modestly increases the number of assisted living facility beds within an existing facility designed to serve the surrounding neighborhood and community. The facility will remain in scale, design, and intensity with the surrounding residential and light commercial uses and complies with the intent of the future land use policies that I mentioned. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Hearing master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the proposed modification to Plan Development 04-459 and found the proposed modification to be consistent with the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code and recommended approval.
Move approval. I got a motion to approve. Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on F4.
Motion carried 6-0.
F5.
Commissioners, the next item is agenda item F5, rezoning standard 25-1350. The request is to rezone a 2.5-acre parcel that's located on the west side of Lithia Pinecrest, north of Brooker, south of Lumsden. The request is to rezone from ASC1 to Business Professional Office with restriction. The restrictions include an enhanced buffer width along the northern boundary, restrictions on building size, overall square footage. Restriction on overall square footage is 15,000 square feet, limitations of the building to a single story, and extensive architectural design requirements to ensure residential appearance of the structure. Based on these restrictions and in consideration of the status of Lithia Pinecrest Road, which is planned to be widened to 4 lanes, staff did find this request approvable. Planning Commission, however, did find this inconsistent with the plan, and the hearing officer also recommended denial. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The applicant here. Morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is a rezoning from ASC1 to Business Professional Office, located in the Brandon area, located in Lithia Pinecrest, and looking closer per the property appraiser, it's south of East Lumsden, and as staff has indicated, Lithia Pinecrest is under planning for 4 lanes. 2.58 acres. Zoning Department supports. We have no neighborhood opposition. We have neighborhood support documented for you, and no opposition that's appeared. We've noticed 29 individuals and 3 HOAs. So as the staff has indicated to you, we've added some very good conditions here to provide a buffer on the north, a maximum size of structure, a maximum height, and residential appearance, which the residential appearance is covered in quite a number of circumstances and restrictions. So the zoning department does tell you that these restrictions also provide for a scale and design that would be comparable to the other non-single family institutional uses in the vicinity on Lithia Pinecrest Road. So this is the site as shown by the property appraiser. We would be providing a 30-foot B buffer along the north, 20-foot B is required. And then there's a list of specific items for residential appearance in terms of the roofing, windows, facades, different wall finishes, paint not to be constituted as a finish, building entrances, glass block, and elements of architecture as well. And as noted, Lithia Pinecrest is designated as a future 4-lane enhancement per Hillsborough County Corridor Preservation Plan. Zoning is ASC1, but you'll see to the north, there's been quite a number of changes just a stone's throw to the north, including a car wash, office residential, BPOs, a lot of BPOs, as you can see, particularly along Lithia Pinecrest south of Lumsden, approaching the site. Also under the future land use, it's a 0.20 floor area ratio, which is the lowest in the comp plan. So when you start to look other than the zoning plans, you see the site here, and what you begin to see is that there's a lot of non-residential institutional uses. So there's a vacant home to the north, which again, we're providing a 30-foot buffer. We've made quite a number of contacts, both to the mail and at site, but it's been vacant. We've not been able to get a hold of anyone there. We have some other neighbors in support I'll show you. But to the south is a cabinet company, church across the street, temple, children's shelter. So you can see this vicinity has significantly changed. Planning Commission does recognize some of these. They note that to the east there are public, quasi-public uses, including a church, multifamily use operating as a children's center. It's quite a large children's center, I'll show you. Further north across the Lithia Pinecrest, there's an additional public, quasi-service public use serving another church. So this is to the south, which is a cabinet creator, builder. Across the street, you can see the lineup of the institutional uses, which are directly across the street. And this is a kid's place named after Dottie Berger McKinnon. It's really, quite frankly, it's more like a campus. This is the church as well. This is the kids' place, which is really more like a campus. They're just doing great work there. Lithia Pinecrest currently, or the most current full count that I had was in 2017, which is 20,731 vehicles. And we have reached out. We did reach out to the community. We were able to get a hold of and get documented support for these individuals, which abut the site to the west and a couple to the south as well. And these are the petitions as presented. Planning Commission does not support, and I think it's important to look at why they're not supporting. They primarily look at the site being located in the Garden Estates Character District, which is the green area, which they know consists of predominantly single-family homes. But our site is located just barely in the Gateway Brandon area on Lithia Pinecrest, which is a much different characterization of homes and uses than you would see elsewhere in the broad Gateway Brandon Community District. And this is specifically the Gateway Community District as we're located in, which you can see is just barely in the district. And again, along the Pinecrest, which is designated as a 4-lane, or to be a 4-lane roadway, let alone a major arterial roadway, does not fit into, and we feel, with great respect to the Planning Commission, their opinion of it being a residential district, which I've shown you the immediate uses are not. We do have a location waiver, and the support is that already changed morphing area. The abutting adjacent properties are compatible by use or by documented support and by your zoning department, and does not, in our opinion, apply to the section of the Brandon Community Plan. When you look at the Planning Commission recommendation, they do note the request to rezone the property BPO would introduce use that is inconsistent with the existing single-family residential pattern. But yet I've shown you, I think we've shown you very well, that in this particular vicinity, that is not the case in our opinion. Zoning Department again notes that the restrictions provide for a scale and design that would be comparable. ZHM findings, ZHM was also not supportive, but when you look at the ZHM finding conclusions and summary, it does not include any consideration for the zero opposition. No one came forward with the mailed notices and the large yellow sign, which no one could possibly miss. ZHM findings, conclusions, and summary does not include consideration of the abutting neighbor's support. And the ZHM findings, conclusions, summary does not agree that the other residential non-reuse does not agree that the other non-residential uses supports the BPO. We think that's a great element of support. That's a big difference of opinion from the ZHM, not recognizing or accepting that all those other uses I've shown you in the immediate vicinity should be a reason for support. So with that, Mr. Chairman and board members, we appreciate your consideration and hope to have your support.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none. Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located within the residential 4 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. The proposal to rezone the property from ASC 1 to BPO would not be consistent with the intent of future land use section policy 3.1.3, which requires new development be compatible with existing development. Given the site is surrounded primarily by single-family residential development, the introduction of the zoning district would not be considered compatible with the existing residential character of the area. The introduction of the BPO zoning district in this location would establish non-residential uses immediately adjacent to established single-family homes, which would create a sharp contrast in use and character of the area. Additionally, as this is a standard zoning request, a site plan demonstrating potential buffers and screening to aid in the transition of uses is not provided or required at this stage. In the absence of such mitigation features between the existing residential and the proposed office use, this request conflicts with the intent of comprehensive plan policy direction that ensures that new development is compatible with and maintains the character of existing development. The subject site does not meet commercial locational criteria as established by Objective 4.7 and its associated policies of the future land use section. The closest qualifying intersection is approximately 2,400 feet from the subject site at Lithia Pinecrest Road and Bell Shoals Road. The applicant submitted a waiver request for review. However, staff finds that the majority of the surrounding area remains primarily residential in nature, and given the compatibility concerns of the subject site with the adjacent single-family residential uses, staff concludes that the proposed development is not suitable for this location and recommends a waiver not be granted. The subject site is located within the Garden Estates Character District of the Brandon Community Plan, which consists predominantly of single-family homes with lot sizes of at least 1/2 acre. In this district, demand for neighborhood-serving uses like childcare and adult daycare is minimal, and as a result, the community plan states that special uses should be located at intersections and would not be deemed compatible unless they meet locational criteria for a neighborhood-serving commercial use. The applicant's request to rezone the property to BPO would introduce a use that is inconsistent with the existing single-family residential pattern of the Garden States Character District. Approval of this request would conflict with the intent and policies of the Brandon Community Plan, which prioritizes compatibility and neighborhood preservation. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the applicant's request for rezoning to the Business Professional Office Restricted Zoning District and found the request to be incompatible with the predominant residential development pattern in the area and inconsistent with the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. And the zoning hearing master recommended denial.
Okay, going to board comment, Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. I have a question. Since these denials were just hovering around the community plans, Mr. Chair, you've been doing this longer than hopefully I ever will. The community plans under Chapter 163 of the Florida state statutes are non-regulatory. They're only a basis for vision and policy. They don't have official regulatory powers. Isn't that correct?
The community plan is part of the comprehensive plan. It is.
But the comp plan under state law is only acknowledged as the regulatory power. The community plans are only acknowledged as visions and policies, but not as the actual regulatory controls. So maybe this will require a further conversation because I'm pretty sure that my understanding of that is correct. And I would just find it odd that we're making legal rulings of inconsistency based off of something that's only supposed to be a vision, but not the actual regulatory components of the comp plan. So I'm going to have to maybe put forward some items on that because I found that strange for those to be the rulings of inconsistency or denial. And I don't know if that's something that is even a sustainable legal path. So I want to have that conversation at a later date.
Yes.
What I would say is that this is future Res 4, and I understand some of the objections, but the reality is Lithia Pinecrest is the worst road in the county, and if it was going for residential 4, this room would probably be packed with opposition because people don't want the homes on that road. So for those reasons, I'm going to support the Development Services rulings of approvable, and I'll move for approval.
Okay, got a motion to approve by Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Cohen.
I'm going to support the motion. I'm not acting as a lawyer when I'm sitting here, but I am thinking when I'm listening to what you're saying that the Planning Commission is making a recommendation to us, but that is not binding in any way. We are the ones that make the decision, and I think because of that, I think it's all really advisory. At least that's the way I would see it.
Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Because this is in my district and we have many of these that are coming before us in the future related to community plans, and you'll see I have a motion here to have a community plan, I would like further discussion around it because I think that the folks that work hard to have the visioning and spend, a year, 18 months working on a vision for their community, I would like further clarification on whether it's regulatory or what that looks like coming to us, because we have so many that are going to be challenging. You know, in this particular case, like I will be supporting this one because I'm very familiar with this road, but I don't want it to be understood like, oh, we're, you know, it comes to us with conditions of denial and we're always going to be moving forward, because that's not necessarily the case. That's why we have individual autonomy to make decisions here. So I would like further clarification on the legalities of it as well. I don't know what we need to do to make that happen, but I would support it.
Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks. Sorry, this is the only time we get to talk, you know, because sunshine's ridiculous. But I would, it's just that when the community who doesn't eat, drink, and sleep this like we do, and they see, oh, rulings of inconsistent. Well, is it, you know, should it really be on the comp plan side, on the regulatory side, we're ruling of consistent, but there is a finding of inconsistency with the policy of your community plan, so that way it doesn't create some type of false pretense like, oh, we're overriding our own laws just for each individual person, because that can be a very dangerous thing to promote to the community if that's not really what it is. So I look forward to the future conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cohen.
Let me just be clear. I think it's a good conversation to have, because the truth is people should know whether or not it carries any weight or not. They should know exactly how much weight it does carry. I think that's a very important expectation people can have before they come in here to plead their case.
I don't want to get off track here, but Commissioner Wolstel makes an excellent point on one of the many reasons why I've never been a proponent of community plans. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
F6.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item F6, major mod application 25-1354. This is a request for a major modification of a 0.77 acre parcel located on the west side of Sheldon Road, north of Moore Road. The request is to modify the parcel that's currently approved for office for a 15-unit multifamily unit based on the surrounding development pattern, which consists of existing multifamilies to immediately adjacent to the north and west and south of the site in the Res 20 plan category. Staff did find this approval. The planning commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer recommended approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Applicant here. Good morning.
Good morning. Patricia Ortiz, 2810 North Central Avenue. This modification seeks to change the approved use from a medical office of 6,300 square feet to a total of 15 apartment units. The maximum height proposed is 45 feet or 3 stories. A type A buffer with an opaque fence will be provided along the north, west, and south boundaries. Residential developments surround the site. Multifamily exists to the north, south, and west. Across Sheldon Road, there is some single-family development. Sheldon Road will be widened to a 6-lane road as it's listed on the corridor preservation plan. And the developer has agreed to preserve right-of-way in accordance with the Transportation Division's findings. We received recommendations favorable reviews from the Planning Commission, Transportation Development Services, and the Zoning Hearing Master. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located within the residential 20 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the town and country and the Northwest area community plans. The subject site is largely surrounded by the higher density future land use categories of specifically residential 9, residential 12, and residential 20, and with predominantly single-family and multifamily zoning districts. The area is currently developed with higher density multifamily uses along the west side of Sheldon Road, and there are some light commercial and business professional office uses within the surrounding area. The subject site is directly adjacent to existing multifamily on the northwest and south sides with direct frontage on Sheldon Road on the eastern property line. Additionally, the requested density does not exceed the maximum allowable density under the current residential 20 future land use category, and the applicants are not seeking any density bonuses, which are prohibited in the coastal high hazard area under policy 2.3.5 of the future land use section. Therefore, the rezoning is consistent with the urban service area and the coastal high hazard area objectives and policies. Future land use section policy 3.1.3 requires all new developments be compatible with the surrounding area. Additionally, the neighborhood protection policies under objective 4.4 require new development to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Given the current development pattern that consists of higher density multifamily uses with single family uses oriented on the east side of Sheldon Road and south of Moore Road, the proposed rezoning is compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood character and would not negatively impact the adjacent residential communities. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the proposed major modification and found the modification to be compatible with the surrounding development pattern and consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code. The zoning hearing master's recommendation was approval.
All right, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Woelstel, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on F6.
Motion carried 5-0.
All right, Mr. Grady, next item.
Commissioners, next item is staff item I1. This is the monthly staff report on update on Live Local Act development projects. We had one additional application for zoning verification filed since the last monthly update, and as outlined in the staff report, and we're available for any questions.
All right, Commissioner Woelstel.
The lawsuit is filed. I'm extremely excited, and I would reinforce my invitation that I will be getting my bulldozer license in the instance that we prevail to bulldoze any properties that proceed. One of the applicants for Live Local that we received recently, I just want to point back out to the board, was exactly on one of the lots that Commissioner Cohen and I joined forces to say no to, and it's just one of the many reasons that I hope that Ms. Mandel prevails in this lawsuit. Thank you very much.
Can we have a motion to accept the report?
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Woelstel, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, the next item is I2, which is a mobility fee alternative satisfaction agreement for improvements for the Muckpond Road and McIntosh Road intersection. Adam Gormley will speak to this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item I2 is as Brian noted, a mobility fee alternative satisfaction agreement for a project located at the southwest corner of Muckpond Road and McIntosh Road. This site was zoned by the board in October to permit a 250,000 square foot warehouse and distribution use. There are access improvements that are required as part of the zoning to make improvements on Muckpond Road. This mobility fee agreement will provide for the improvement of Muckpond Road and McIntosh Road intersection. Specifically, it provides for a northbound left turn lane on McIntosh Road and an eastbound northbound lane and an eastbound southbound lane on Muckpond Road. The developer will build these improvements and be required to have it completed prior to issuance of any certificates of occupancy for the warehouse use, and the cost of the improvement will be offset against the mobility fee obligations for the project. In the event that the project cost exceed the mobility fee obligation, there would be no reimbursement to the developer or transferable credits. We're recommending approval of this item.
All right, thank you. The public has an opportunity to comment on this. Does anyone want to speak to the item? Seeing none, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Woelstel, second, Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, last item.
The last item is Commissioners Miller items regarding directing staff to proceed with creating a Lithia community plan for the Lithia community.
Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lithia is one of the fastest growing areas in our county, and with that comes growth that needs for thoughtful planning that reflects the community's vision for its future. Today, I'm asking that we begin the process of developing the Lithia Community Plan. Community plans are an important tool that allows residents, local stakeholders, and county staff to work together to identify priorities related to land use, transportation, environmental preservation, infrastructure, and the community character. Lithia's unique rural identity and its strong sense of place, and it's important that the future planning efforts respect and preserve those qualities with responsibly managing growth. This request simply directs staff to begin the engagement and planning process so that the voices of Lithia residents can help shape the long-term vision for their community. I appreciate the staff's work and effort towards this and look forward to collaborating with the community and at least most of my colleagues on the community plan as we move this process forward. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Miller. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-1. Commissioner Hagan voted no.
Okay. Adam, any other items?
Yes, sir, that concludes our agenda.
All right. We're adjourned.